न जानामि योगं जपं नैव पूजां नतोऽहं सदा सर्वदा शम्भुतुभ्यं जराजन्म दुःखोऽगतातप्यमानं प्रभो पाहि आपन्नमामीश शम्भो।
A warm welcome to all the devotees on Raksha Sutra English. We are going to narrate wonderful holy stories to all the devotees from the book Miracles of Love by Ramdas ji, an exclusive devotee of Maharaj ji. Please listen carefully, all the devotees. Darshan, a meeting of the spirit. Not everyone who met Maharaj ji was opened or awakened at the initial visit. Many came, enjoyed a pleasant visit, and left apparently unaffected. They seemed to have no business with Maharaj ji. That is, they were either unready to be touched so deeply, or the vehicle of the Guru, or this particular Guru was not their way. Balaram Das, to a new arrival on the veranda at Vrindavan. Have you had Maharaj Ji's darshan yet? I don't know. Is he the fat one sitting over there? Then there were those who, while experiencing no dramatic jap, yet responded to some subtle threat that drew them back to Maharaj Ji again and again. I was astonished to watch the way in which tough people would melt as they stayed around Maharaj Ji. For many of us who were either dramatically opened initially or subtly drawn, the desire that became uppermost in our lips was to be with Maharaj Ji. We had become devotees, for when we were with him, we were experiencing being at home in the heart of God. Little wonder that his presence became so addictive, and that we would leave home and go to any lengths to be with this spiritual Pied Piper who was teaching us to dance and play in the fields of the Lord. But to assume that just because you wished to be with Maharaj Ji, you could we did not take into account the nature of this man's behavior. He moved about unpredictably, and whenever he stayed in any one place for even a few days, people would arrive in a continuous stream from morning till night. Some came barefoot with naked babies from nearby farms. Others came by jet and taxi. I was standing in the front yard of a humble house in a little village in the hills when Maharaj Ji arrived unexpectedly. I was told to remain outside, so I had the opportunity to watch the people come. They seemed to appear almost out of nowhere, arriving from all directions. They were running, some of the women wiping the floor from their hands on their aprons, others carrying their babies half dressed. The men had left their shops unattended. Some were pulling flowers from the trees as they came to have something to offer, but they came with an expectancy, with a joy, with a reverence that could not be mistaken. Ramdas, true, many wanted something worldly from the miracle Baba, but beyond that they wanted once again to taste of the nectar of being with him. Many of us vacillated in our reactions to this constant demand upon Maharaj Ji. At one moment we saw ourselves and the other devotees and seekers as so many vultures around a piece of raw meat, or like flies crawling over a piece of sugar. At those times we tried to protect him, and often we held back so as not to contribute to the scene. But at other times we would realize how totally Maharajji had control of the situation. When he felt that people were, as he put it, eating his head, he would simply go into a back room and close the door, or send everyone away, or get in a car and leave without a backward glance. Once, after travelling many months to see Maharajji, we at last found him at a devotee's home in Delhi. We were allowed into the back room with him for a few minutes and then were sent out to have tea with many others. About 15 minutes later, Maharajji walked out of the inner room and right by us, not more than 2 feet from our faces. With not the least turn of the head or signal of recognition, he went to a car in which a driver was waiting. He got in, and the car left from a destination unknown. Such a person was clearly not at our mercy. So Maharajji kept continually on the move in a totally unpredictable fashion. Within a temple compound, he would move from place to place, at the moment freely available, while at the next closeted in some room with the door securely bolted. But that his only movement, devotees could settle near the temple and just visit each day and wait for the moments when he would appear. But his movement was not limited to a single compound. Rather, he wandered from village to village, from the mountains to the plains, from one end of India to the other, from temples to private homes to jungle ashrams. In the middle of the night, he might leave unannounced for a destination unknown, or he might board a train and be destined for a certain city, only to leave the train at some other station, sometimes so quickly, even as the train was moving, that devotees who had followed him were left behind. The intense desire of the devotees to be with Maharajji, combined with his elusive and unpredictable behavior, gave rise to the most intricate dramas of hide and seek, labelled by one Baggish devotee as the Great Grace Race. Being a devotee of Maharajji was like participating in a continuous and unending treasure hunt, limited only by economic resources or family responsibilities. The pot of gold was, of course, darshan with Maharajji, and gold it was. One Indian devotee put it succinctly when he said, "Even sexual intercourse with my wife cannot equal darshan with Maharajji." The Indian devotees had an intricate communication system that allowed them at least 30% of the time to trace Maharajji and know of his whereabouts within a day of his arrival in any town or village. We Westerners were not so lucky, and so we had to use our wits, our intuitions, our cunning, and our unmitigated gall to get to his feet. Our percentage of success was perhaps not so impressive as that of the Indian devotees, but our style and our dramatic entrances and exits certainly were. I was having Maharajji darshan, and all of a sudden Tukaram walked up. I asked Tukaram how he had gotten in, and he said, "Oh, I jumped over the ball." And I thought, "Oh God, well, I won't be here for long." Then Krishna Priya climbed in. The chowkidar saw her clambering over the ball, and since he didn't want to take the blame for letting them in, he went to tell Maharajji. The gatekeeper said, "Baba, these people climbed over the ball. I am sorry. I did the best I could to keep them out. Maharajji's initial reaction to the Chaukidar's report was rage. Get em out, get em all out. I got thrown out too. We Westerners shared the guilt among us. We came back the next day for darshan and discovered that overnight the ball had been doubled in height. Many levels, many changes. When you finally arrived at the right place at the right time and were told, yes, he is here, and found yourself seated before him, what was it like? Even the tongues and hands of the gods and goddesses of speech, music, and poetry could not do justice to those occasions. So, how could? Like the blind man with the elephant, each devotee met a different Maharajji. When Maharajji came out, you never knew what to expect. He could do the same thing a week in a row until you would think, well, he will come out at 8. Then he might not come out all day, or he might just go into another room and close the door and be in there for 2 days. You had to learn to expect the unexpected. One day he came out, and all he said all day long was thul thul, nun nun, repeating these words to himself like a mantra. Days went by like this, and somebody finally said, Maharajji, what are you saying? And it turned out to be an old Bihari dialect, and all it meant was too big, too big, too little, too little. When he was finally asked why he was saying this, he said, oh, all you people, you all live in thul thul, nun nun. You live in the world of judgment. It's always too big or too little. You can never know as you sit before Maharajji who it is that he is working with in the curse of a darshan. He may be talking with one person while another is being deeply moved in some special way. You yourself can't know what you are receiving from him. One aspect of being with Maharajji that struck me and a lot of people was the multi-leveled nature of the experience. We would just be sitting with him and seemingly nothing much would be happening. We would be having tea, and sometimes he would throw some fruit around, or somebody would come and say a few words. It was all very low key, but we would be watching everything that he would do, taking the most extreme delight in the tilt of his head or the movement of his arms. At the same time that we would experience an incredible light joy, we would also have the sensation that we were in the midst of a raging fire. Darshan section story is long, so further story will be narrated to all devotees in next episode. To listen the wonderful holy stories of Maharajji, please like, share, subscribe the channel, and don't forget to ring the bell icon. Write in the comment box, Jai Neem Karoli Babaji Maharaj, Jai Ramdas Ji.